Yo, so the new Plasmophile class mod for Harlowe that drops with Raid Boss 2 makes her blue tree actually really good for bossing and for mobbing. But for bossing in particular, because that's what she was really struggling with. As you can see here, it does pretty good bursts of damage, and I'm using Confirmative Reality in the green tree to get my action skill back as well. And if you see there, the mobbing is insane. Now I'm repeating this here, and look at the map. It just one-shots all of those mobs. Now, it will only do that to the weaker mobs, but it will literally clear out enemies in one shot because of how it works. And I do explain how it works, but basically, when you put an enemy in stasis, it will do an additional burst of damage on top of them. And if they are immune to stasis, it will do an even additional burst of damage. Again, look at the map here. You'll see all of those enemies just disappear. They get insta-killed from the burst of damage that they're taking from being put in stasis. It's crazy damage. Now, I will be honest, this isn't a build that can platinum time Subjugator and Thule. Now, that's what took me so long on this video. I was trying to get it to a point where it could platinum time Subjugator and Thule, and unfortunately, I did not get it there. But for literally everything except for the raid bosses in this game, this build is incredible. Even for the raid bosses, it does some respectable damage, as you can see here. But it's not platinum timing them. For a Bloom Reaper, you can gold time Bloom Reaper very consistently. But for the platinum time, this is the damage that we're looking like in phase 4 of the boss fight, which is unfortunately not enough to take it out within a reasonable amount of time. So I'm not marketing this as a raid boss killer, but it is a very good build. Here is Bloom Reaper, and here's what it looks like taking on Bloom Reaper. So you can still do some pretty good damage, and it is a major buff and improvement for Blue Tree Harlowe. So, without further ado, let's get right into the breakdown. Alright, new Blue Tree Harlowe build using the new Harlowe class mod, the Plasmophile. Now, what this does is whenever you use stasis, it deals bonus cryo area damage to enemies that you stasis. And if you stasis an enemy that's immune to stasis, i.e. bosses, it will also deal bonus radiation area damage. And this damage is increased by action skill cooldown rate. So I did try a couple of builds. I did try prioritizing action skill cooldown rate. However, the damage that you get from the action skill cooldown rate isn't actually that much. It's not worth speccing fully into action skill cooldown rate, specifically for damage. So I did test it. And from my testing, it wasn't as much damage. I did test quite a few different builds where I was just shooting the, the target dummies, and was checking the damage and seeing where I could get the most damage out of the action skill and the class mod. And, yeah, when I spec'd into action skill cooldown rate, I didn't get the most damage. This was the build that I got some of the highest damage on. I'm sure that you could change a thing or two here and there, but this is the one that I found to be most consistent and most fun. So starting off with the blue tree, we are going 5 points into Make Extraordinary. One of Harlowe's best skills. It's going to give you skill crit chance up to like 60%, I think. Yeah, 60% bonus skill crit chance, which is fucking insane. We love that. That's a really good skill. Next, we're going to go 4 into Bright Future, and 1 is in Negative Entropy. The reason why we want negative entropy is because we want the crit damage. We're getting so much crit chance. Benefiting the crit damage is going to be really good. And this is the highest crit damage per skill point you can get on any of the characters. It's 10% bonus crit damage per skill, which is a lot. And then I'm going to throw 1 point in a Ripple Effect. Whenever you kill an entangled enemy, another enemy gets entangled. It just helps for entangling that AoE. This is quality of life for mobbing, but it does feel really nice to go. And then the last point, we're going to throw in a Bright Future. Now, I did play with going into periodic table flip and throwing some points into cryodynamics because we are going all into cryo damage down here. But I didn't find it to be that good, so I didn't end up doing that. And you'll see what I went instead, but that is an option. So that is something to note, that maybe you can take 1 point out of Bright Future if you do want to go cryodynamics for the extra cryo damage. Then we're going to go Unstable Isotope. It's a kill skill. You get bonus cryo damage when you kill enemies. This is great for mobbing. For bossing, you don't feel it quite as much, unfortunately. So, yeah, it's not the best for damage, but out of all of these skill trees, I've talked about it before in my Blue Tree Harlowe builds, This middle bottom section is really the only one that comes with a decent amount of extra damage, so it's the tree we're going to spec into. Then we're going to go 1 point into Flash Freeze. Whenever you deal action skill damage, you have a chance to freeze the enemy. This is fucking awesome. It's just great for mobbing. You're freezing enemies left, right, and center, and it feels really fun. And then we're going to throw the 4 other points that we need to go down to the bottom into Keep Ice on that, giving you a bunch of lifesteal from your cryo damage, which you're getting from Unstable Isotope, and you're also getting from Triple Point, which we're going to throw into last. Lots more cryo damage. And then the capstone we're going to use is Cold Plunge. And the augments that I would swip between, geez, that's a funny sounding word. The augments I would swap between would be Inertia or Wildcat Destabilization. I really like Inertia. This is what is going to give you that mobbing, like one-shotting kind of AoE, the big slamming mobbing damage, and Inertia is going to give you 25% bonus radiation damage on your guns. So you can take your pick. I do swap between these depending on what I'm facing. For bossing, you might want to go for this, and for mobbing, Inertia is just too much fun. Frankly, I don't notice the gun damage that much, the extra radiation damage. I don't really notice it that much, so I like sticking with Inertia. But if you want to switch it around, do whatever you think is best. Next, we're going to go into the green tree. Now, this is all kind of core. We're going to throw 5 points into Momentum, getting more crit hit damage for all those crits we're going to be dealing. Then I'm going to throw 1 point into Neutron Decay. Now, this bonus radiation damage from Wildcat Destabilization does not irradiate enemies. So, unfortunately, you can't spec in a Neutron Decay and expect this to be irradiating enemies so that you can keep this gun damage active. I did try that. I was hopeful. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. So going more points into this isn't really worth it unless you plan on using radiation guns, which I do not. So I would rather use cryo weapons because we're so spec'd into cryo down here. So I only went 1 point into this, and then I threw the other 4 into Main's Hum, giving us more shield capacity and, more importantly, over shield capacity. We are going to be going some stuff that makes us benefit from having overshield. So having a lot more overshield lets us keep it up easier. It also just gives us a lot more survivability. It feels very, very nice. So I really like Main's Hum, but another good option would be Mass Function for extra reload speed, depending on the weapons that you want to use. I spent a lot of time using the Mad Lad, shocker, so I don't go into this one, but if you do want more reload speed, this is definitely very nice. It gives you quite a bit for the points. So next, we're going to throw, the reason why we throw 1 into Neutron Decay is so that we can throw 3 into Resonance Cascade, which means whenever you deal radiation damage, you get extra action skill damage. So that action skill damage is going to greatly benefit your class mods like burst damage. So it feels really, really good to go action skill damage, and you'll see that a lot of our skills down here are going to be specifically for that reason. So the other 2, we're going to throw into Confirmative Reality. Now, this one is super important because whenever you shoot an entangled enemy, you restore a portion of your action skill cooldown. This is what lets us use that high fire rate to spam enemies that are entangled and get our action skill back up after we just used it. So this is super, super important. Honestly, it's important enough to the point where you could throw only 2 points in Resonance Cascade and 3 over here in Confirmative Reality. I just use the Mad Lad with such a high fire rate that I only have 2 and it's perfectly fine, but that is up to you. Next, we're going to throw 5 into Decoherence. You're basically just getting more percentage damage based on the enemy being entangled. It's a lot of damage, 25%, it's pretty good. And then we're going to go down into Feedback Loop. Whenever you entangle an enemy, you get increased action skill damage. So like I said, that's what we're juicing a lot. Action skill duration and action skill cooldown. And you are benefiting from that action skill cooldown via your class mod, getting more damage there. So that's very, very nice. And then we're going to throw another 5 points into Latent Charge. So this is, you get bonus damage with guns, melee attacks, and your action skills while you have Overshield. And the more Overshield you have, the more damage. So that's why we're speccing into Main's Hum for that Overshield. It's up to 50%. That's a lot. That's a lot of damage. So our action skills are getting quite juiced from this. But it also does feel good for your guns and for your melees when you proc Groundbreaker. That's really the only time you're meleeing. And then very importantly, we're going to throw 1 point into Runaway Reaction. It gives you increased status effect chance, but the main part is whenever you apply a status effect, it entangles that enemy. So when you don't have an entangled enemy to shoot, you can just kind of spam them, apply a status effect, and they become entangled, which then lets you use that confirmative reality to get your action skill back up very, very quickly. Now, the last 2 points. I didn't throw them. I did try them into cryodynamics, but I found that I was getting so much benefit from all of these action skill bonuses here, action skill damage, that I throw the last 2 points in a field-ready prototype. Just more action skill damage. All of our damage pretty much is going to be coming from this action skill when you're mobbing or when you're bossing. So it's all about using the action skill and then getting it back up with confirmative reality and a super high fire rate weapon, which is why we benefit from the fire rate from Bright Future. So that is the skills. That's the skill breakdown. Now, as for weapons, you just want high fire rate, lots of instances of damage. Specifically, something that synergizes very well with confirmative reality. The weapon that I used pretty much exclusively to get my action skill back with confirmative reality is the Mad Lad. No one's surprised. If you know me, you know I fucking love this weapon. I love using it. I love how it synergizes with so many builds. And I'm not even using this weapon really for damage. I'm just using it to get my action skill back and relying pretty much solely on my action skill for damage. But it feels really, really good. Other weapons that are going to be good are going to be cryo weapons. So the Flash Cyclone is very, very good. I got a jailbroken Gatling that's also cryo. All of this stuff is good. But generally, you just want something that's relatively high fire rate so that with confirmative reality, you can get your action skill back very, very quickly. And that's the idea. I stick with the Mad Lad, specifically, especially when bossing, because you can get your action skill back so fast with its insane fire rate, and you never have to reload because it's a COV weapon, and it heats up and it cools down ridiculously quickly. So, you know, you can shoot an enemy after using your action skill, and before it will overheat, you will already have your action skill back. So it's like a perfect amount of it's kind of a perfect dance between use your action skill, spam the Mad Lad until you have it back, stop spamming the Mad Lad so you can use your action skill again, and by the time that animation is done, your Mad Lad has already fully cooled down. So this synergy, I really, really like. That's pretty much it for weapons. Besides that, use whatever you want. High fire rate weapons are very good, like I said, so the Lucian's Flank is very good. You can use a Cryo Wombo combo. Obviously, Cryo is going to be your best friend here, but use whatever you want. And then as for the rep kit, I got a triple bypass with Elemental Affinity. I'm still rocking a level 51. I haven't farmed for more of these. Our survivability is already pretty good, so I'm just using it for Elemental Affinity. And with my specialization, I do have now with Caffeine selected, so if my cooldown does, I don't have an entangled enemy to shoot, and my action skill cooldown it's on cooldown, I can just spam 3 triple bypasses and get my action skill back nice and quick. Then we're going to go the Bismuth Tip Dagger for the Ordnance. I'm not going to lie. I don't use the Ordnance that much. You're spending so much time wanting to get your action skill back and shooting that it becomes a lot to juggle to throw out Ordnance as well. But another great option would be like a Waterfall. These are level 50 ones, but like a really good one would be a level 60 Cryo Waterfall would probably go pretty hard. And then we got our class mod, of course. It's the new class mod from Raid Boss 2. As I said before, it's the Plasma File. It is key. This is like, you need this to make bossing with the blue tree actually valid. And it does, I would say, a pretty good job of doing that. Now, unfortunately, it's not quite strong enough to make Raid Boss 2 platinum timeable with this build. Honestly, just facing Raid Boss 2 in general is really, really hard. But you can get through the first several phases very easily, but once you get to the later tanky boys, this isn't quite enough damage to carry you through that, but it is pretty good. As I said, the action skill cooldown, you don't actually benefit or get that much damage from it, so the points into these action skill cooldown skills are generally not as worth it, in my opinion. I found this one is giving me 2 skills, one giving me more skill damage, and one giving me more elemental damage. Those seem to be pretty good. I also got one with 53% skill damage on it, so pretty good. I'm happy with this roll. But I think another thing that would probably be good is some skill crit chance would be nice, or I have one with some action skill damage somewhere, I believe. I don't think I do have one with action skill, but I think action skill damage would also be a good roll as well. And then we're going to go, of course, we're going a Siphon Watts for dinner. No one's surprised. It's just best in slot. It's very, very good. And then for your enhancement, go whatever you want. I just like to go on with Accelerator because I like to use the Mad Lad. And Accelerator with the Mad Lad, they synergize perfectly. Another thing to note, I have mine with gun magazine size. Now, I did try one without gun magazine size, this one here, and it gives me more fire rate. But the gun magazine size actually gives you more time to be able to shoot on COV weapons before it overheats. So the gun magazine size is actually really, really core here. It's doing a lot of work. It makes it a lot easier to your bursts of the Mad Lad, like you can hold down the trigger for a lot longer before it will overheat. So that is really, really key. So I would look for one with Accelerator and gun mag size. That's all you really need. I wouldn't say that you would need much more for this build, but I really like the Accelerator and the gun mag size. I think you will too. So if you can find one of those, that would be ideal, but it's not the biggest deal in the world. Also, it's heavily dependent on what weapons you want to use. If you don't want to use the Mad Lad, obviously that's not going to be as effective for you. I love the Mad Lad, so this is what I use. For Firmware, we're going 3 Skillcraft and 2 into Action Fist. We're going 2 Action Fist for that action skill damage. Now, originally, I don't like having to grind for all the Firmware, so I tried it without the Action Fist. But I was hopeful that with the Action Fist, we would be able to take on Raid Boss 2 and have more damage, enough damage to do it. But unfortunately, we don't have quite enough damage to be taking on that Raid Boss consistently. But it will be best in slot here for the Action Fist 2 because it gives you that 30% action skill damage, which we are benefiting from greatly. And then as for specializations, we're going to go now with caffeine. As I mentioned, we're going to go a hone mine because this is skill crit chance and skill crit hit damage, not just action skill damage, but this will benefit our 0 point on the bosses. We're going to throw the best defense because we do want to have our overshields active all the time. We should be getting this 30% bonus damage most of the time when that is active. And then we are going to Groundbreaker. This is going to help us with that burst bossing damage. You don't really need it for pretty much every boss except for the raid bosses, but for the raid bosses, it gives you a lot more damage and a lot more burst to help you get through those big beefy boys. And that's the build. Now, full transparency, this probably isn't Harlowe's best build. I don't think Blue Tree Harlowe will ever be the best option on Harlowe just because she has so many other insanely strong options. But it is very, very fun. Look at that bossing damage and the mobbing here. Just watch the map. Watch the map right here. You'll see all of these enemies essentially just disappear. One at a time, they just get one shot. It's hilarious to watch. It's super fun to use. So it's really, really nice that it's finally pretty strong. Now, again, just to be super, super clear, I'm not platinum timing Raid Boss 2 with this build. However, Bloom Reaper, you can gold time very consistently. You can't platinum time it just because the crystals are a little hard to deal with. But you can actually use your action skill on the crystals, and it will deal a big burst of damage to them. So on UVH 7, you can 100% gold time Bloom Reaper very, very consistently. But unfortunately, Raid Boss 2 is a little bit trickier just because of how beefy the health bar is. But anyway, that's the build overall. I hope you guys really like it. If you did, I'd appreciate it if you left me a like. And if you would want to subscribe, I would give you a big smooch on the face. And that's all from me, I guess. I hope to see you guys in the next one. Cheers. Have a good one.